Brain fog. What is it? How do we fight against it? We're going to talk about that just a little bit today. Hello everyone, Semiretiredbob here. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. I am also inviting you to join me on my journey as I count down to moving to Texas to start my off-grid homestead. Today's topic is just a short one. We're just going to talk about brain fog. I can't really give a lot of information on this. All I can do is tell you what my experience with it was. And as you can see, I'm going by my neighbor's place here, and that big pile of brush you saw in yesterday's video is now gone. It looks like the city came through and collected all of it yesterday in my neighborhood. But I'm going to walk around a little bit. There's some work going on up there. I'm still going to go up that big hill because I want to get my fast walk in today. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. What you're watching is you're watching me walk. I know this doesn't seem super exciting, but when you realize that a little over 2 years ago I couldn't do this, I could barely stand for a couple minutes without severe pain, it becomes a bit more interesting. If you're returning to the channel, welcome back. I'm glad you're here as well. It means a lot that you spend just a few moments of your day with me. I would like to ask y'all to help me out just a little bit. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Drop down in the comments and say, "Hi, Bob." If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. All of these things are absolutely free and help me get the word out that it's never too late to change your life. I'm 61 years old. I'm doing things I couldn't do when I was 40, like walking really fast up this hill in preparation for sprinting at some point. As I've mentioned before, if you're adding a new exercise to your routine, please do it slowly to avoid injury. I can't really tell, but it feels like I'm doing much better with maintaining my talking to you while I walk fast up this hill. So I think it's helping quite a bit. I'm going to stop just a little bit short because there's another lawn service there. You can see the stop sign behind me there. I only stopped a couple minutes short on that, or a couple of steps. My guess is that the city has come through and cleaned up this area because there are yard services. Well, you can hear 1, 2, 3, 4 of them just around me here. Now that the spaces between the sidewalk and the street are clear, everybody's working on those. Okay. Sorry about all that noise, guys. But let's go ahead and talk about brain fog just a little bit. Again, this is just my experience with it, and I can't tell you for sure if it was the carnivore diet or just stopping statins. I didn't realize how far I was into brain fog, just kind of drifting through the day, not really paying much attention to anything going on around me, or how little critical thinking I was doing. Because I stopped statins a couple of days before I started the carnivore diet. But 30 days into it, It's not a feeling I can really describe, except just this fog lifting off my brain. I could tell I was thinking clearer. I was starting to do math in my head again faster. A lot of little things. And I think that while the statins had a great deal to do with it, I also think the carnivore diet had a lot to do with it as well. Because if we stop and think about how much of our brain is made up of fat, but because of the way our body uses things that we put into it, if it's overloaded with carbohydrates, it never really gets around to using much of the fat. At least that's the way I understand it. I don't want to say anything is fact. I just want to say it's the way I understand it. Because if I state something as fact that's not right, then I'll end up on the wrong end of Professor K and his channel, and I don't want to do that. But as I understand it, because while we're pumping all these carbohydrates into our bodies don't use as much of the fat. It's a slider kind of thing rather than on or off one or the other. So we will use some fats. But having good fats in our system is important. And I think that's where the carnivore diet really helps with brain fog. The other thing I wanted to talk about here real quick, I already went up to the top of the hill and back. Now, because I'm not doing as much stuff, only working 1 day a week at the miniature golf course, I'm trying to get a little more walking in. So I'm going to go down to the other corner and back too, while I talk to you about some of the worst dietary advice out there. The only reason I bring this up again is I had a comment yesterday about how great they were doing eating 10 to 12 meals a day. And if you're eating tiny enough amounts that you can still lose weight and feel good doing that, by all means, have at it. Have fun. I hope it works out for you. But I think you're going to end up with problems in the long run. Because that's the same advice I got back when I was first diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. She called it her carb-controlled diet. And the idea is to spread your food out over the entire day so you don't get those great big spikes. And that does work to a certain amount, a little bit. The problem is that to get true healing and consistent fat loss, again, as I understand it, we want our insulin to get low, back down to its what I will call the baseline number. And if we don't get our insulin back down to the baseline number, it stays elevated all day. And while your insulin is elevated, you can't, I won't say you can't use fat, but insulin is one of the primary markers or catalysts for getting sugar out of the bloodstream into the cells. And as I understand it, when our insulin levels get back down to baseline, that's when we can begin using our fat. I'm probably not saying this right. I'm probably not saying it very well. But the whole thing that changed for me, again, this is just my experience. The thing that changed for me when I started the carnivore diet is that prior to that, I was taking the dietitian's advice. I was eating my 3 meals a day of between 60 and 75 carbs. And then in between times, I was having 3 15 carb snacks. Okay, this looks like they stopped on this corner because all the stuff this way on Street is done, but the weeds, the brush piles are still here going down this side street. So they are at least working the neighborhood because a lot of this stuff is cleaned up as well. I actually made it all the way down to the corner and back and up to the other corner and back on the sidewalk. So the main drag through the neighborhood has been done. But anyway, so, I was doing her carb controlled diet, having 3 meals a day and 3 snacks a day. And if you add all that up, it's between 225 and 250 carbs a day, which is a crap load of carbs. And the big load of carbs on top of spreading it out throughout the day kept my insulin high. Did it help my A1C? It did, a little bit. During that whole time I was doing that, I was originally diagnosed, my A1C was 10.3. And it did come down a little bit. If it was 7.8, 7.9, he'd say good job. But if it was 8.0, 8.2, just a little bit above 8, he'd say, well, we need to watch that just a little bit. Never giving me any more advice on how to watch that a little bit. But apparently his break-off point, my old doctor, was if you're below 8, you're doing okay. Well, as we now know, that's not okay. You're still doing damage to your body. You want to get your A1C down to 5.6. Now I know, or lower. Now I know there's a lot of carnivores out there whose A1C slowly creeps back up. And there are a lot of reasons that could be. But you have to remember, we're not spiking. Even if our blood sugar and our A1C go up because we're eating a lot of protein, we're doing a lot of exercise, we're doing some of the things, as well as our red blood cells living longer, we're doing a lot of the things that can make our A1C appear higher. It's not the 6.5 or the 7.0 that causes the damage. Remember, that's an average. To get an average of 7, you're spiking way up every time you eat a meal. And it's those high spikes that do the damage to our bodies. So, I know I've covered a couple of topics today, but I just wanted to get out here and primarily wanted to get out here and get my walk in because it's a beautiful Tuesday. It's supposed to get hotter this afternoon, and I don't want to be out here in the heat trying to get stuff done. And because, let me check, oh, my trash hasn't gone yet. But I cut all that stuff in the backyard yesterday. I'm letting it sit for a day so the stuff that's been cut can start to wilt, so I can easily see what's been done and what hasn't. I want to get that done. I've got some stuff coming from Amazon that I want to show you if it ever gets here over the next couple of days. And this big white box behind me, we're going to have to start working on that here real soon, because it's almost the middle of September. We're coming down to a month or less until I leave for Texas. So I got to get this done as well. But hopefully some of what I said today made sense. I know I kind of jumped around, but that's the way these things go sometimes. That's what I've got for you today. Don't forget, get out there, be 1% better. Today, tomorrow, every day. Have a great day, folks. I'll see you in the next one.